Welcome back to the channel today, guys, and happy Valentine's Day. You know, a day filled with love, romance, and a little bit of spice. But for some of us, we're all on our lonely lonesomes, and that could be very depressing. So today, I wanted to talk to you guys about some romance series that might put a little spark in your day to day, even if you're on your own. Lets you experience a little bit of romance in your day to day life. It's on today, the day of love. So I picked out 10 romance series that I personally really like, and I wanted to sit and talk to you guys about them today. Maybe some of them you know, maybe some of them you don't. But at the end of this video, I hope you find something that you can really like that puts a little spark in your day to day. Now, before we get into it, I will say this list is very subjective, and these are not in order. I did not order these series besides the number one. The number one, the last one I'll show you guys, is what I think is the best one out of all of them. But I wanted to bring some series that you guys might know and not know. So we're going to start off with our first series, a classic. And we're going to talk a little bit about Toradora. Yes, you guessed it, Toradora. I love this series. If you guys don't know, I've told you guys before on the channel that my favorite genre of anime is romance, actually. And when I first saw Toradora, I fell in love with this series years ago. It's such a good series. If you guys don't know what Toradora is, we'll read a little bit of the synopsis to get you caught up in case you don't know somehow. Now, Ryuji Takasu, I haven't seen it in a while. Don't judge me. Is a gentle high school student with a love for housework. But in contrast to his kind nature, he has an intimidating face that often gets him labeled as a delinquent. On the other hand, Taiga Asaka, a small doll-like student who is anything but a cute and fragile girl. Equipped with a wooden katana and feisty personality, Taiga is known throughout the school as the Palm Top Tiger. One day, an embarrassing mistake causes the two students to cross paths. Ryuji discovers that Taiga actually has a sweet side. She has a crush on the popular vice president, Yasaku Kitamura, who happens to be his best friend. But things only get crazier when Ryuji reveals that he has a crush on Minori Kushida, Taiga's best friend. Now, this is a series about these two trying to help each other to get with the two people they like, who are both of their best friends, and how romance ensues. Now, I love this series personally. And in case you guys didn't know, the tsundere archetype was around before this series, but Taiga right here, I would argue is one of the definitive tsunderes. She is honestly like the character that made that archetype of character so prominent throughout anime. If you don't like tsunderes, you're gonna have to blame Taiga for that, because she made it so popular. And to this day, so many series are filled to the brim with them. But this is just such a classic rom-com, such a fun time, that if you haven't seen this show, I guarantee you will have a fun time today. So give it a watch if you haven't. But we're going to move on to our second series today, which is My Teen Romantic Comedy. Now, let me tell you guys something real quick. I actually hadn't seen this show before until recently. Somehow, I had not watched this show literally until a month ago. Was the first time I ever watched this show, ever, which is wild. I watched all 3 seasons, and I loved it. This show is so, and I mean so, good. Surprisingly. If you don't know, we'll read a little bit of the synopsis. Hachiman Hikigaya is an apathetic high school student with narcissistic and semi-nihilistic tendencies. He firmly believes that joyful youth is nothing but a farce, and everyone who says otherwise is just lying to themselves. As you can tell, great start already. In a novel punishment for writing an essay mocking modern social relationships, Hachiman's teacher forces him to join the Volunteer Service Club, a club that aims to extend a helping hand to any student who seeks their support in achieving their goals. With the only other club member being the beautiful ice queen Yukinoshita, Hachiman finds himself on the front line of other people's problems, a place he never dreamed he would be. As Hachiman and Yukino use their wits to solve many students' problems, will Hachiman's rotten view of society prove to be a hindrance or a tool he can use to his advantage? Now, this series is probably one of the best rom-coms out there. It is. Definitively one of the best romances, I think, which is wild to say. Hachiman as a character is such an amazing character, and this series is very real with its romance. It's very real. It's realistic with how it handles romances. That if you haven't seen this show, I think you will instantly fall in love with it like I did. It is a classic, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely have to check it out. You will not be disappointed. But we're going to move on to our third series today, which is a series that's kind of near and dear to my heart personally. If this would like to load anytime soon. And that is Spice and Wolf. Spice and Wolf is one of my all-time favorite series ever. Now, you guys might be saying, oh, Gary, this isn't a romance technically. This doesn't count. Here's the thing. There's going to be some series on this list where romance is not the main factor of the series, but it plays a heavy part in the series. So to me, it counts as a romance series. And Spice and Wolf is the literal definition of that. Now, this is a classic series. Even more than Toradora and rom-com, I would say. Spice and Wolf is an amazing series. Let me read the synopsis for you guys so you can get a feel for it in case you don't know about it. Holo is a powerful wolf deity who is revered in the small town of Pazlo for blessing the annual harvest. Yet as years go by and the villagers become more self-sufficient, Holo has been reduced to a mere folktale. When a traveling merchant named Kraft Lawrence stops at the settlement, Holo offers to become his business partner as he takes her to the northern home of Yoetsu. The savvy trader recognizes Holo's unusual ability to evaluate a person's character and accepts her proposition. Now in the possession of both sharp bargaining chips and a charismatic negotiator, Lawrence inches closer to his goal of opening his own shop. However, as Lawrence travels the countryside with Holo in search of economic opportunities, he begins to realize that his aspirations are slowly morphing into something unexpected. Now, as that just said, this is a series actually about economics. You really get a feel for how being a merchant is in this series. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the romance. This is one of the best, most flushed out romances, honestly, in an anime. This series is fantastic. I cannot stress that enough. If this was ranked, this would be towards the very, very top. The chemistry between these two characters is palpable and just makes every episode so fantastic. It is a romance of romance series, and I think if you haven't seen this, you will truly love this one. This one stands above others. It's just such a great series. I highly, highly recommend it. But we're going to move on to our next one. I don't want to spend too much time on these because I could sit and talk about Spice and Wolf for a very long time. And our next one is a series I really like, actually, that I think is so adorable. And it is Tonikawa Over the Moon for You. Now, this is one of the most adorable romance series I think I've seen, guys. When this show aired a couple years ago and I first watched it, I couldn't help but be smiling, grinning from cheek to cheek with how adorable this series was. It's just such a It's such an adorable little story. And I know I've said that a lot, but let's read the synopsis and you guys will kind of get an understanding for it. NASA, Yuzaki, yeah, his name is NASA, by the way, literally NASA, is determined to leave his name in the history books. Ranking first in the national mock exam and aiming for a distinguished high school, he is certain that he has his whole life mapped out. However, fate is a fickle mistress. On his way home one snowy evening, NASA's eyes fall upon a peerless beauty across the street. Bewitched, NASA tries to approach her, only to get blindsided by an oncoming truck. Truck-kun strikes again, guys. Doesn't even have to be in an isekai. He's always there. He's always watching. Thankfully, though, his life is spared due to the girl's swift action. Bleeding by the side of an ambulance, he watches as the girl walks away under the moonlight. Reminiscent of Princess Kaguya leaving for the moon. Refusing to let this chance meeting end, he forces his crippled body to chase after her and asks her out. Surprised by his foolhardiness and pure resolve, the girl accepts his confession under a single condition. They can only be together if he marries her. And this story is the story of these two's married life together. And it is the most adorable little romance ever. It's such a great time to watch. I promise you. Like I've said with all of these shows, you will really like, I feel like, if you like romance series, especially this one. It is adorable. If you just want to see wholesome adorableness on display the entire time through 12 episodes, this is the series for you. It's very fun, and you will have a great time. Season 2 on the way, by the way. Very much looking forward to that. But I cannot recommend Tonikawa enough for you guys. I really can't. But we're going to move on to our next one, which I feel like a lot of you guys will actually know, surprisingly, because it's not a super well-known series. We're going to talk about Ori Monogatari, or better known as My Love Story. Now, if we're going to talk about wholesome series, guys, if we're going to talk about adorable, wholesome series, this is one of the top shows. This show is such a joy to watch each week. Each week, I remember when this was airing years ago, and I was watching this, and it's got spring 2015. I feel old, guys, but it's such an adorable series and such a great romance on top of it. So let's read a bit of the synopsis. With his muscular build and tall stature, Gakko Gudo is no ordinary high school freshman. However, behind Takeyo's intimidating appearance lies a pure heart of gold, and he is considered a hero by his male peers for his courage and chivalry. Unfortunately for Takeo, his appearance does not bode well for his love life. As you can see, look how big this man's lips are. As if his looks were not already enough to scare the opposite sex away, Takeo's cool, handsome best friend and constant companion Makoto Tsunakawa easily and unintentionally steals the hearts of the female students, including every girl Takeo has ever liked. Imagine having a bro that steals all the girls you like. Some bro, right? One day, though, when Takeo saves cute Rinko Yamato from being molested, yeah, a little gross, but it happens, unfortunately, he falls in love with her instantly. Unfortunately, he suspects that she might be interested in Tsunakawa. Despite his romantic feelings for Yamato continuing to bloom, Takeo decides to act as her Cupid, even as he yearns for his own love story. This show is adorable to the extreme. Extremely wholesome, and just a great love story. I feel like a lot of you have seen this, but if you haven't, you have to go check this series out. I feel like a lot of you might relate to this series in a way, and that might sound rude. I'm not trying to sound rude, but I feel like Out of all the romances we've done so far, this one might be the most relatable for people. And it is just a great ride the entire time. You have to go check this out. If you're feeling lonely today, if you feel like, oh man, people don't like me because of how I look, you have to watch this series. And I truly hope it gives you the confidence to go out there and be yourself. Because this series is awesome. Now, let's move on to our next series, which is... Which one is this one? I have a lot of tabs open, guys. You got to give me a second. My computer's like, dude, you're killing me. Yes. Now, this one is subjective. It's The World God Only Knows. This is a series I personally love so much. And it's another series where you could say romance isn't a huge part of this series, but at the same time, it's a huge plot point in the series as well. And this series is, on top of being, I think, a good romance series overall, a very funny series as well, that I know a lot of people love, including myself. So let's read the synopsis, because this one's a fun one. This is a very fun series. Kima Katsuragi, my boy Katsuragi, known online as the legendary god of conquest, can conquer any girl's heart, in dating game sims at least. In reality, he opts for a two-dimensional world of gaming over real life because he's an unhealthily obsessed otaku in galgi games, which is a type of video game centered on interactions with attractive girls. Basically like little rom-com games. When he arrogantly accepts an anonymous offer to prove his supremacy at dating sim games, Kima is misled into aiding a naive and impish demon from hell named Alucia. Oh, it's been a long time since I've read that name. Elsie, for short. Deluti Ima with her mission: retrieving runaway evil spirits who have escaped from hell and scattered themselves through the human world. Keima discovers that the only way to capture these spirits is to conquer what he hates the most: the unpredictable hearts of three-dimensional girls. Shackled by Elsie via a deadly collar, Kima now has his title of God of Conquest put to the ultimate test as he is forced to navigate through the hearts of a multitude of real-life girls. Now, this series is actually one of the first series I ever watched. I have such a soft spot in my heart for this series. It's such a fun ride the entire time. I feel like you guys can relate with this one too. I see all the time in my comments people talking about, oh, 2D's better, man. We can't have real life. We gotta have 2D, 3D. We gotta have all that stuff. Like, video game girls are better. Well, this man fully believes that. The god of conquest himself, Katsuragi. And this show is just such a great time the whole time. Very fun. And it also has some good romantic elements too. At times. This is a series that if you haven't watched, go check it out. You're not going to be disappointed. There's multiple seasons. They're all fun. You will definitely enjoy seeing the God of Conquest conquer, baby. It's a great time. Now, let's move on to our next one, which I do remember because it is a classic series, old school. And that would be, come on, load up, Chobits. Chobits is so near and dear to my heart. I love this series so much. So much. Chobits is a pretty old series. It's from 2002. But it's a series that if you're a romance fan, you have to check out at least once. Because I still think it holds up today. And some of the themes in the show about romance, you see a lot. Like, for instance, if you guys have watched Violet Evergarden, it's kind of in the same vein as that, to an extent. To an extent. It's not a war drama, to be fair. but it tackles some of the same questions in it. So let's read the synopsis for this very classic series. Also has one of the catchiest openings ever, by the way. I love this opening. It's one of my favorite openings. Definitely check that out. When computers start to look like humans, can love remain the same? Hideki Motasuwa is a young country boy who is studying hard to get into college. Coming from a poor background, he can barely afford the expenses, let alone the newest fad. Persicoms, personal computers that look exactly like human beings. One evening while walking home, he finds an abandoned Persicom. After taking her home and managing to activate her, she seems to be defective, as she can only say one word, Chi, which eventually becomes her name. Unlike other Persicoms, however, she cannot download information into her hard drive, so Hideki decides to teach her about the world the old-fashioned way, while studying for his college entrance exams at the same time. Along with his friends, Hideki tries to unravel the mystery of Chi, who may be a Chobit, an urban legend about special units that have real human emotions and thoughts, and love towards their owner, but can romance flourish between a Persicom and a human. This series is a literal classic. Even more, this series is very old school. Its animation can be a bit rough. I will say that. I went and checked out a little bit of it before I did this video. Its animation can be a tad bit rough because it is so old. But I think it's a very rewarding series and a very good watch on this day of love that we have today. And I think if you watch this, you will absolutely not be disappointed. Especially if you're like me and you just have a fondness for older series like I do. It's a very good romance. Like I said, great opening and just an all-around great time. You will love Chobits if you watch it. Let's move on to the next one, because our next one is our only movie on this list. The next one is our only movie on this list, and I didn't mean to click on this like a dummy, which is Josei the Tiger and the Fish. Now, I love this movie. I remember when this movie came out a couple years ago, and just how quickly I fell in love with this movie. Just how great of a romance it really is, and how touching it is. This series is a little special to me because I know people that are in situations like this. I myself, guys, I was in a wheelchair for an entire year of my life. I understand this feeling very well, and this is just such a great movie. So let's read the synopsis because this is one of the ones I recommend the most, for sure. Equipped with his passion for diving and admiration for marine biology, university student Sunio Suzukawa tries his best to juggle several part-time jobs to earn enough money to study abroad. But one night, in a fateful incident, he meets a girl in a wheelchair, driving his current path into a detour. The girl, Kumiko, who prefers to be called Josie, initially comes off as rude. Sunio, however, is then convinced by Josie's grandmother to take on a paid job to be Josie's caretaker. Despite being annoyed with her bossy demeanor, Sunio sees the opportunity to save more funds and support his academic dream. Nonetheless, after putting up with Josie's behavior for some time, Sunio tries to quit, only to discover Josie's dreams of traversing the outside world to experience a life free of her crippling condition. Changing his mind, Sunio decides to accompany Josie in exploring the wonders that the world has to offer. Through their time together, the two begin to realize that the traits that bind them may be vital towards fulfilling their prospective aspirations. This series is so endearing. This movie is so endearing, so adorable, and really hit me in the heart personally. Because I know what it's like to be in a wheelchair and how suffocating that feeling can be. And I know people who are in them now and what they've told me about it. So this series is just very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if a lot of you guys have seen this series or are even going to see it after this, but I really would like it if you guys would check this series out. This is one of the most wholesome series ever. And I've said that for a lot of these already, but this movie in particular is just so fantastic and really can pull on your heartstrings at times. So definitely go check out Josie, the Tiger, and the Fish. It is a must-watch movie. And it's not that long, too. You could knock this out tonight pretty easily. Now, moving on to our next one, or should I say two, because these two shows are extremely similar with each other. Like, damn near identical premises with very small iterations. And I thought to myself, if I'm putting one of them on here, I gotta put both of them on here. So, you guys might not like these as much, but to me, I really like them because they're fun. And that is, if this would ever load. Come on, computer. Don't keep the people waiting. We Never Learn and the quintessential quintuplets. Now, these, I would say, are towards the lower end of romance series on here. They're towards the lower end. I would put these under the other series that I mentioned before in terms of romance. But I personally really like them, so I wanted to bring them to you guys. I know a lot of you guys probably know the quintessential quintuplets already. I know you guys do. But I wanted to talk about We Never Learn as well, because it's basically the same show as the quintessential quintuplets. It's about a guy who has to tutor these girls. I'm not reading the synopsis because they're both so identical. We Never Learn is about a guy who's from a poor family that can't afford anything, who's trying to get a scholarship. Sound familiar? And to do so, he has to tutor these girls that are failing in all these subjects. And as time goes on and he's teaching them how to become better versions of themselves and how to grow, maybe something else grows between them too. It's a great series, very fun. I think you will like it. And Quintuplets is literally the same vein, about a character who's from a poor family, who's trying to get a scholarship and all that, who has to tutor these 5 girls. And the same premise happens, but the only difference is that they're quintuplets in this show, obviously, whereas in We Never Learn, they're not siblings. But they're so similar, and they're so fun series. They're very fun romance series. Quintuplets actually just had a movie not too long ago. Fantastic movie. Great manga, by the way, for both of them. I highly suggest you watch these shows. If you've seen Quintuplets or you've seen We Never Learn, you will almost assuredly like the other one. They are so similar. They're very adorable romances, and I think they could be a fun time tonight if you're on your lonely lonesome. Now, we're going to go to our number 1 definitive top romance series ever. There's not a romance series that surpasses this one. This is the cream of the crop. It's got the best characters. It's got the best story. It's got the best MC you could even imagine. Some would call him the best MC in all of anime. Are you ready? Are you ready to see Rent a Girlfriend? Alright, jokes aside, I can't. No, we're not serious about this. Trust me. No. It's a little early for April Fools, but I had to throw this in because I thought it'd be fun. No, we are not talking about Trash a Girlfriend right here. This show is terrible. Trust me. Do not watch this. I just thought it'd be fun to bring it up. Do not watch this garbage. This show sucks. Our real number 1, unless you guys live under a rock, should be obvious. If you've been on this channel long enough, you know what I think the definitive rom-com series is. The best rom-com out of all of these. The best romance, the most satisfying romance. is, without a shadow of a doubt, Kaguya-sama. Let's keep it a buck. Do I even need to explain Kaguya-sama to you guys? You guys know it. You love it. It is the definitive rom-com to me, and definitely the perfect show, if you haven't seen, to spice up your day. Definitively the best rom-com. Best characters, best story, best just premise. And you know what? Just in case you live under a rock and don't know about Kaguya-sama, let me read it to you guys. Actually, let's not read it to you. I can explain it to you. It's about basically two tsunderes. Our guy and girl who can't admit to each other that they love each other. Even though to everyone involved, even to themselves to an extent, they know they do. They know they love each other. But they're so prideful, they'll never admit it. That the series is about them trying to get the other to tell them they love them. And the wacky hijinks that ensues. It is such a blast, such a great time, that you will fall in love with this series after probably an episode or two. And if you don't, I don't know what to tell you. Your heart's black as ice. You need to go outside and touch some grass. But Kaguya-sama is the best rom-com and will absolutely brighten your day. So I would love to hear in the comments what you guys find as your best romance series. I gave you 10 pretty damn good options here, if you ask me. And I would love to hear a different opinion in the comments. If you think your favorite romance was snubbed in here, let me know down below. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day today on the week, or the day of love, I should say. Even if you're on your lonely lonesome, hopefully one of these shows can perk you right back up and show you that, hey, you can have love all on your own. Your hand's right here. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces. Have a blessed day. I'll see you guys next time. And remember, keep it a little bit spicy. I'll see you guys then.